Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We're back with Superfilm support as usual on Monday. You can go to superfilmsupport.com and ask any film question, and I will try to answer you my best. And today we have Adrien here, who's been collaborating with Camera Rescue in the past and is here in town. He's from Paris, so excuse his French. And we are going to be answering a question together because Superfilm support was actually intended to be a bit of a conversation with people that knew what they were talking about, not just me, which doesn't always know what I'm talking about. So we have a question today, which is why I brought Adrien here, which is about threaded cable release with digital controller is the topic. It says that he needs to use vintage SLRs with more precise shutter speeds, between 1 second and 1/10 of a second mostly. I need many more options than a 1/4 and an 1/8. Is there something that I can screw into the threaded release port, set the camera to bulb, and give me that? And then he asks about using this also in medium format. He's using a Pentax LX currently, and he needs this for exposure of creeks, rivers, and waterfalls at different shutter speeds. But the point is, I need absolute control of the speed. So Adrien's been working with shutter testers here at the store. He's got experience from being a trainee. So we're going to be talking about the accuracy of shutter speeds and the inaccuracy, most likely. So Adrien, what do you think? Is it possible, first of all?
It would be possible, but really hard, and I'm not sure it's actually really worth it. Between 1 second and 1/10 of a second, you have already a few options: 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, usually something like this. With something external, with a mechanical control, might not be really good because you are looking into having a little plunger essentially push the mechanism and release it. You can't really know at which point it happens, so it kind of adds some inaccuracy. Yeah. Essentially, using your camera's internal mechanism is much more precise than this.
Yeah, if we went to answer the fact of, is there a thing that you could, screw into your cable release and it would give you accurate shutter opening, like he said, like each camera will have a different setting. So maybe it's like 3 millimeters in, maybe it's 3.5 or even less, and that would not be so precise. But then one topic that is important, I think we've talked about it in behind the scenes, is the fact that shutter speeds are not actually that accurate. For example, most mechanical cameras have a ±10 to 20% factory calibration that is acceptable. So if you have a Hasselblad like we have here and you're shooting 1 second, anything that's ±1 second, 20% would be acceptable. So that already kills the shutter accuracy you want. And then on large format shutters, it's ±30.
30, yeah.
From factory, like Copal actually sold their shutters with a little note saying ±30 was accurate. I would say the best you could do is probably have the shutter tested at a facility. We test things here at Camera Rescue. That would give you a reality of what your shutter is. Yes. And also, film latitude is really forgiving. Anything, like you're saying, between a 1/4 and an 1/8, you want options, like a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th, your film will accept that.
Yes, yeah, essentially you're looking at full stops here. Full stops are acceptable. I can't really think of any situation where you would need a 7th or a 9th or something.
Yeah, Adrien was mentioning to me before we started recording is that from a 1/4 to an 1/8, you're supposed to be having 1 stop. Shutters used to being 1 stop increments, and that's why on our cameras there's an 1/8, a 1/4 is half, a half is half of a 1/4, and then a second is double a half. So basically you're adding a stop of light. You would be maybe more flexible with the aperture.
Yes, essentially this is what the aperture is for. You usually have aperture in half stops or even 1/3 of stops for some lenses. And this is really the intended way. You just get the shutter speed as close as you want it and then tweak the aperture. Even a 1/3 of a stop is kind of pushing it with some older shutters. It's achievable for digital mostly. But for all the shutters in film, you wouldn't really see a difference.
Yeah, and also one thing to mention is if you're going for mechanical shutters that are used in the older cameras like the Pentax LX and so on, is not so accurate. Like I said, it can be plus minus 20 is acceptable from the manufacturer when they were made new. They were not made new anymore. But also electronic cameras have a more accurate shutter. You were telling me that some are dead on.
Yeah, usually it's what we see when we test more modern cameras, especially SLRs. Even on the cheaper end, it's when you test them, the shutter is electronically controlled, so it tends to be really, really accurate. You tend to have a second that's dead on. Faster shutter speeds are also really accurate. So usually modern shutters, even on pretty low-end cameras, are pretty accurate.
Yeah, one thing that I've heard here at the rescue center is if an electronic camera turns on and shoots, it's accurate. If it doesn't turn on, it's just a dud, and it should go, to recycle or the outlet. And mechanical cameras are the ones that they will pretty much almost always shoot, but they pretty much always are not, exact. So when we test on the shutter speed and the shutter testers, you can notice that you do 1 second on a Nikon F80 and it's like dead on, and then you do it on a F3, for example, and maybe it'll be a little one way or the other, or an F2 from Nikon. So we had here also the example of the famous Canon AE1, and it's actually here famously known at the Rescue Center for being always one-stop overexposed, and that's why it's so loved all over the internet world of beginners shooting film, because it gives you, better scans from your lab.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. So yeah, I think the overall suggestion would be you probably are looking for something that's not so, well, first of all, there's no device that would give you that precision. And then if there was, maybe it would be, not perfect because of the mechanical means of our cameras that we use. I would say it says he shoots with Fujifilm mirrorless. I would suggest you look at the reciprocity and how film is flexible when you shoot it, as a matter that it will absorb that. Like, you can overexpose, like we said, like 1 stop or 2 stops on color negative and get great results. Yeah. If you're talking between a 4th and an 8th and having options, the film will not notice. Even slide film probably will not notice a bit of a shift. But yeah, I hope you find a way to keep on shooting film if you're really venturing into it. He does want to venture into medium format, and he's mentioning the Mamiya 645 Pro, which is probably an electronically controlled camera. So that should give you pretty accurate shutter speeds if it works. The Mamiya 645 Pros are prone to failure as the bodies, not the lenses. But yeah, what do you think? Anything else to add?
No, not really. It's more a matter of realizing that the limits of the hardware, and they're not really that bad. You can really work around them.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks Adrien for joining here for Superfilm Support. Like I said, this was intended as a series of videos where I could have people that knew a bit more than I did about this, and Adrien's been around shutter testers more than I have for sure. So thank you for helping with this, and thank you for everybody. Do remember that Superfilm Support basically is supported by Patreons or PayPal donations, so I'll leave a link below. Also can pay for Adrien getting a haircut, which he mentioned he needed. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.
Not nice.